This is a presentation of MANBREED.
Hello and welcome to MANBREED Live. My name is Michael McClendon. I'm here with the brothers who got the knowledge to help sisters understand the brothers' point of view and why we do what we do. And we're in the studio with none other than Orlando Boyd.
How you doing, Brother Michael?
OB, I'm good, man.
I am so glad to be here for another installment of MANBREED Live.
Oh my goodness.
But listen, MANBREED Live would not be without the man,
the doctor
himself.
Yeah.
Dr. Thurman. Well, how you doing, sir?
I am doing well. Glad to be here with you guys. We're going to break bread, break some knowledge, make it happen. I could not do it without the other two perspectives, Michael, Orlando. Let's get into this work, man. Let's try to enlighten some people.
Let's do it, man. Today we're talking about blurred lines, understanding the unspoken. So just to give a little perspective, some studies suggest that about 80% or more of communication is nonverbal. Facial expressions, posture, even tone of voice can play a huge role in communication. Misreading nonverbal communication can kind of blur the lines and often leave a guy feeling like a woman is flirting with him, or maybe she's rejecting him, whether she is consciously doing it or not. What are some behaviors a woman might display, brothers, that a man might interpret as, I don't want to be approached, when in reality, she does, but she's just giving the wrong or doing something that, men interpret differently or wrongly, if you will.
Yeah, when we're talking about, let's set some foundation first, okay. All right? So when we're talking about nonverbal communication, we are really talking about people's disposition and their gestures. Right. And generally people we put it in that realm. So the number of times you may blink your eyes or the slight touches that you may interact with someone with. Right. But the other one that is present is just people's energy in general. We cannot dismiss that. Right. So nonverbals is really like we feel each other's energy when we are interacting. It's designed to be that way. If you don't believe that, you would believe that we are the only beings that don't interact that way.
Okay.
Right? So which means there is a primal instinct in each and every one of us that suggests that we communicate far better when we are in tune with self with nonverbals than we do verbal communication, because verbiage is it limits what we can express. That's why people they speak the language of verbiage, then they speak the language of tone and harmony, right? All of those are languages, right? But your body is doing that constantly too, right? What makes that problematic is sometimes people don't learn self enough, so they don't even know what they are telling them. That's why so many people spend a lot of time trying to talk their way out of the way they feel. Right, so they create the contradiction inside themselves, which means it's a matter of time before they create a contradiction with you, which is what we're talking about. You want me to come over, but you give me the disposition that you are unwelcoming. But then you say well, men just don't talk to me. Well, maybe you should try smiling.
Absolutely.
Maybe you should try giving a slight nod. Because to catch eye contact with me and you roll your eyes is a clear indicator that you don't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
But instead of fixing it and putting your behavior in line with that, you would rather cast it off to the mantra of, I'm playing hard to get. Well, you play hard to get, you won't get got.
That's good.
Yeah.
What about it, Orlando?
Well, in asking the question about, what does she really want? And it's hard for us to men. We don't know what they want, what they don't want. But when you talk about those signals, those nonverbal signals, Doc put on one of those things that would across the board for the breeds, except for probably the competitive breed, because he's aggressive.
He's in it for the hunt.
Anyway. So if you ain't doing nothing anyway, you have your back turned to him. He sees something, right? He going after it. Right. What you got on saying something to him. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
And what so those types of things like that. But for the most part, for most general breeds of men, the smiling is one of the key points.
Yeah.
Eye contact. I can just be over here in the corner somewhere and I keep looking up and you looking at me. You know what I mean? That's another thing to showcase you must be interested, or your eyes are asking me a question I need to give you an answer to. Those types of things. And one of the subtle things that women don't sometimes know what they do But anytime they're playing with their hair, showing their neck as a way of, their head, tilting different ways, those types of things like that, typically men can pick up, okay, non-verbally you're saying something.
Right.
And therefore, then, depending on that type of breed, if he's going to interpret it as what it is. And we'll get into a little bit more of what that is saying or not saying for the breeds. But typically, those are some of the things that jump off the page, especially the eye contact.
Yeah, that and the slight giggles at the jokes, right?
Yeah.
Especially when I know I'm not that funny.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Or if I know I said something pretty funny, but you the only one that didn't laugh.
Yeah.
These are the things, like, believe it or not, like, we pay a lot of attention to the nonverbals subconsciously.
Yeah.
And so you reading the situation.
Yeah.
We've talked about this off air, with regards to every time I look at a woman, I'm not looking at her like, oh man, yeah, so and so. Like, men assess.
Right.
And that's a nonverbal communicative trait. Like, we are assessing the situation. So even if I have somebody, if I take a look at another woman, I'm not looking at her like that. I'm just assessing what's in the room with me.
Yeah.
Right? Which means you're constantly doing that. Now, Michael, you can tell us, right? Because we've been out the game a while. You the single man.
Yeah, you single man. Come on.
What does that nonverbal look like in the field now?
Oh man, I mean, I think there's a lot of mixed emotions or mixed signals, and I hate to say what a woman like is actually doing, but I think in this era of the Me Too movement, there are a lot of sisters who just posture in a way where, for lack of a better word, I want you to know that I got me. If you want to get with me, not only do you have to be my equal, but you got to also deal with me kind of not lording over you, but like, you got to recognize that I'm a woman and I'm powerful and this is our time.
Right.
And so I guess non-verbally that might be like, just kind of like if you approach, sometimes it's kind of like not being open, period, to it. You know what I mean? Or if she is open, sometimes, like I've been in situations where I just was sure that like, the sister was kind of like feeling me, was kind of into the situation. And then when I asked for the number, all of a sudden it's like all of that didn't just happen.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes, but I think sometimes it's like a power play, because I really don't think that in this, and y'all help me out, in this Me Too era, it's kind of like foggy for brothers in terms of, what is acceptable.
Yeah.
In terms of, especially like for me, like I think church is a good place to meet a woman. I might, working at like a huge university like TSU, say that, okay, there's a young lady who works on campus, but at the same time, if something like that didn't go well, that's a problem.
Right.
So especially with the movement. So I mean, throwing it back at you, sometimes I feel paralyzed.
Yeah, I mean that's completely okay, and Orlando, I'm excited to hear your take on this, right? But like, let's understand this: that historically, Me Too in the past, like that's a problem, because men received a different message about how to court a woman than the one that they're getting now. Yeah. Right. And I can't tell you how many times, whether it was my granddad or, one of my great uncles, talked about how his wife now had no interest in him at all. Right. And so he pursued,
Yep.
right?
That's what I was taught.
You can't do that now.
No,
right?
You can't.
And I can't tell you how many times they talked about how they met their wife in the proximity in which they work or live.
Yes.
And now the message is, for lack of a better term, you don't sell crack where you rest at, right? So now I got to go outside of my proximity to meet a woman. Like, that's a totally different message than traditional message than we know now. And so, like, that's something you got to deal with. I mean, maybe I'll let you provide some insight.
When you brought up like that, being a mature man, like in my 40s, it's like that's the model.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You pursue because that's what I'm taught to do. But now it seems like almost like the pursuit is like, is frowned upon,
Yeah, but look how difficult it is for me or not me personally, honey, hey, to read nonverbals now, right? Because historically, I could read your nonverbals and they could tell me not to pursue, but I would pursue anyway,
right?
And then that speaks to the man. The man breed that Orlando alluded to, like that competitive guy, that confident, in some case arrogant guy. He sees that as a challenge. And that's I'm going full steam ahead because I eat what I catch. Right. And so, but then the average breed guy, like, he is really paying attention for an opening to get in with that woman. So her nonverbals mean something different. Right. And then the submissive guy or whatever, he may not even pay attention. He waiting on her to come talk to him. But he has to be aware, like, I gotta look delightful, for lack of a better word. But
well, there's a lot of different angles to come at that, when you talk about, in the old days being persistent, and now in these days, like here, where women are being more aggressive in certain situations. That some men that they say, man, I don't chase nothing because I'm the catch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
real.
You feel like you got things going on. You ain't going out chasing nothing. You
Supply
can do
and
a
demand.
few different things, and if they don't respond, it's on to the next one.
Yeah.
But for those who feel like, you know what, I'm a hunter and I need to go out and I'm really liking her. I always attribute it to this in a way when you're talking about this Me Too movement. It's really come down to the amount of constant contact you have with that person, right? Because a guy who may only see a woman that he may be attracted to, like may see her every so often, sometimes that may give him some pressure to act a little bit more quickly in a certain sense than just waiting around and being patient and picking up the nonverbal cues and making sure, hey, I'm getting this eye contact or whatever. If I was interested in a woman, I only saw her once a month. At that second time, at third, I got to go in. You can't wait. But if you, like you said, if it's at church, you seeing it once a week. At work, you seeing it every day. Most breeds can be a little bit more patient in seeing with it, unless once again he arrogant. He feel like, okay, yeah, you saying all this because in some cases, some men believe all women are doing the same thing and everything means the same thing.
Right.
Just like we talking about why we did this show, because not all men are the same.
Right.
Men interpreted certain things as, so that's why in certain cases where a woman may say, I wasn't really flirting with him, but you were being friendly, like you friendly with everybody. The different breeds, the different men take that differently as opposed to a gentleman like, yeah, you just being nice. Or, if this wasn't the case, I could interpret it that you're trying to get at me, so let me go ahead and do my moves on you.
Right. Because it's just interesting now, because I know a lot of sisters who are on websites. One in particular where only women can initiate. The brothers just get on there and like, if women like you, brothers can't say, hey, what's up? But the young ladies can do it, because there's a certain empowerment for the lady, but at the same time for the brothers who enjoy that, I guess that's good for them as well. But it's a different era.
Sound like Atlanta to me, but go ahead.
Yeah. Women outnumber the men big time.
Exactly. Just sit back and
it's a different era.
Well, and one of those things though, it does open up, and we talk about, like I said, I attribute to MANBREED, and like when you're training or getting some people conditioned to certain things, if it comes too easy, guess what? I'm gonna go to the first time that it seems like something disturbs me that I don't like. Guess what?
Right.
I had more to choose from over here.
On to the next one.
You know what I mean? So it's important for women to understand that if they are interested and truly interested in that person, and they think that person may be having some interest, but they don't know, they don't want to set themselves up, look like they thirsty or coming too strong, that, it could be some of those symptoms that you could be like, hey, let me ask somebody else to fill in the blank for me. You know what I mean? Right. Or just be what I'd say then, that the nonverbal become verbal. Because a guy will know you're interested when you start asking him questions.
Yeah, exactly.
You start initiating conversation. You don't have to be outright flirtatious, but as long as when he picks up that, oh, you showing some interest, like, what's my favorite team?
Right.
Oh, okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you standoffish because you want because you've been taught, no, let the man do this, da 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 da.
Right.
That man could interpret that as saying, okay, well, you must not be interested in my.
Right, because when men are out, we are looking to have a good time, and generally they want to see women who will want to have a good time too, and that don't necessarily mean anything, past, hey, we're dancing here, or we're just gonna have a drink, have some decent conversation, like you said about football teams, basketball. Like, okay, cool, you like basketball too? Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So sometimes men, they are looking at the room to see the woman who's just kind of nodding her head to the music,
having a good time.
That's a gesture, like, okay, she here to kind of let her hair down a little bit. That's cool. Let me go talk to her, and see what's going on. But if the music playing and we know it's a hot song, and you sitting there with your arms folded.
Right.
Yeah.
You may not. That's not going to increase the chances that someone's actually going to come over and talk to you, right?
Yeah.
Unless he's that guy, he's going to try to relate to you based on the fact that I ain't liking it either.
Yeah.
Right. He will play that role.
And another thing that just like women who they see what they see and like what they like, a man will absolutely see what he see and like what he like.
Yeah.
Now, depending on what your other nonverbals are saying, what you got on, what the situation is, and all those things like that, will dictate in you saying, okay, I'm doing all this, but he still ain't giving me attention.
Right.
Because you got also understand that just because some men like something, not all men like something. You know what I mean? That leopard suit probably ain't. All dudes probably ain't feeling the leopard suit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if you in a certain area and you dressed a certain way, because to that guy is saying something. You know what I mean? So it's certain things like that where you say, oh yeah, this is my bait, this is my go-to, and you always get whistled at, but you ain't feeling those guys who whistling at you.
Right.
But the guy that you like, you trying to do that same thing to, and he ain't responding. You gotta understand that he ain't that type of dude.
Right.
And that ain't what he may be feeling. That ain't the language that's speaking to him.
Yeah, and let's be clear. Like that's like what you wear and those things is not a nonverbal cue for you to be disrespected or anything like that. Right. We agree with that. But realistically speaking, in today's world, there's a perception that comes along with that, right? You don't have to like it. You don't have to say it's right. It just is, right? There's certain things that I cannot wear walk into the store at 12 o'clock midnight.
Yeah.
Now, that don't mean I am a robber or a thug.
Right.
But if I'm seeing it, that is the perception that's likely to come up first. Yeah. And so the same thing happens here, right? So when Orlando's talking about those nonverbals and your disposition or the dress that you wear, anything like that, yes, people have ideas about those things.
Right.
And it like I said, it ain't right, but you do have a responsibility to be aware that that's out there, right? But especially when you're trying to interact and meet new people.
Yeah.
Like we need to be aware of as many variables that play into people's perception as possible, and then we got to work to make sure we're giving off the perception we want.
Yeah,
right.
That's a responsibility, right? Now, I just wanted to make sure we had that out there.
Absolutely,
definitely.
And once again, I go back to understanding the breeds, because this is what this show is about. That you understand the breed is more compatible with you, and those breeds react differently.
There you go.
You know, because if you expecting a certain thing like that guy who's whistling and that's not your thing,
right?
And you always in that environment, guess what? That's what you're going to keep on
attracting.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And not thinking that everything is, just because it just varies into that. So it's that's another important thing that we talk about. Nonverbal is actually a language in and of itself. You got to understand who understands that language.
Yeah.
It's like you going to a different country and you walking down the street, you don't understand what none of them folks are saying.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to know the language.
Right.
Right.
But you just said but that is a more extensive language than the verbiage you use.
Absolutely.
That's what allows us, like you just said, Orlando, I can go to another country and not speak the native language, but I can communicate in some shape, form, or fashion.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? Because my nonverbals, like they speak too.
Yeah.
And so people will pick up on, okay, he's nice to interact with. Let me try to sell him so-and-so. Right. And yes, I do want to buy those beads. But we don't speak the same verbiage.
Absolutely.
Now, what about in this age now with all the social media and like the websites, like I mentioned, are those things, would you guys say, a hindrance or a good precursor to meet folk? Because I mean, people can play who they want to be, or I mean, what are your thoughts on those?
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say there's always this language that people want to project. We got into certain things about people always telling the truth, right, and not telling the truth and things like that. But social media is a double-edged sword.
Okay.
It allows for some communication and giving people a way that they can read into you whatever you're giving them. But at the same time, you got to make sure that they can read what you are giving visually, words, all those things, situations, because you know, in certain, like where it's just all about pictures and you and these things, you showing what you eat and where you're being and all that stuff like that, that can speak a certain type of language to a person that says, you know what, oh, you like this, and then in reality you're not really like that,
Right.
and therefore then that's a line that has been blurred. Social media is a big culprit of that.
Yes.
And once again, the abuse of it leads to a lot of different things. Like, I say this, man, and I know once again some women may, you know, take it the wrong way, but some men can look at a person's social media and see the way they position all their pictures and things like that. And if things are always the same, like you see some people, they have the same pose and all that, that's saying a whole lot to certain dudes. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Right.
And how often you're doing it. Because another thing into, like, if you always are putting this stuff out there, that's saying something.
Yeah.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, great point. Like, let's be clear that when we talk about social media and we're talking about nonverbals, we are on the cutting edge. Like, this is something that's never happened in human existence before.
Yeah.
But much like you said, Orlando, it has posed to be a problem. Because now we are living in an atmosphere that puts more value in a personality than it does the character.
That's
right?
Good. That's good,
Man.
And so I can fabricate my personality. And if I'm looking at social media and me and you are not having an interaction, I don't even know what your voice sounds like.
That's right.
But I'm able to build based on what you presented an identity.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And your character is what resides or sticks around when ain't nobody looking.
That's right.
But social media is all about what am I looking like when people are looking.
Right.
Right? So that nonverbal, again, you got a responsibility. And like Orlando said, if I tell my students this all the time, and I said, if I go on your social media and and you are taking pictures and your butt is facing the camera and you got to turn your head around so I see what you look like, it's telling me what you value.
Preach.
Based on what you think I value. Right? But then when we have an interaction and I mention how nice your butt is, you feel offended. But your nonverbals presented that as the thing that you value most. Now, like you said, I ain't trying to get in trouble.
Good,
and yes, you should have the ability to express yourself any way you want to, and it's okay. And I'm telling you, it's okay. I'm just saying that in your right, you have a responsibility to use your right in the right way so that other people, especially younger people, know the responsibility it is to have the right in the first place. And that's where the disconnect is happening. Your nonverbals are speaking something totally opposite, right? Which means technically you're a hypocrite. Because a hypocrite is when your mouth speaks what's opposite of what's in your heart.
Right. Yeah. Well, look, okay, y'all. Let's take a break, and we're going to be back with some more MANBREED Live. And we're back with MANBREED Live. when we left, we were just talking about social media and websites and really some of the ills that can come from that. How people can be hypocritical because, you may be saying you want something, but you're putting a different look out there. And so you're drawing in what you're putting out there and then maybe not even liking what you're getting back, the feedback you get back. Are there any good things y'all see about it as it relates to people who are trying to connect in terms of dating, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or a site that's set up for dating?
Yeah, I mean, social media, like it's all in how you use it. And, for me, I'm not a big Facebook person. I'm, Instagram person. But, it was initially designed to show other people how you see the world. And at some point, somebody decided to turn the camera around and show themselves, which means it became more of a narcissistic act. But there are still pockets on various forms of social media that allow you to see what somebody's interested in and what they find interesting and how they like to enjoy life. Right. And that is the beautiful part of social media. People do it with family all the time that they don't get to interact with. Right. They use the nonverbals from the things on social media to kind of quantify the family experience.
That's right.
And that's cool. That is a asset to what is happening in people's lives. Right. So yeah, I do see some benefits to technology and nonverbals because it also allows you to pick up the phone and call and say, hey, Orlando, man, I was checking out your so-and-so, man. Is everything all right with your mom?
Yeah.
Right? Because I see him sitting at his mom's house, and we may have had a conversation, but now I'm able to kind of stay updated on that. So it helps me stay tapped in. So, yeah, there are some benefits to it.
Yeah. I would say, I always say it's a double-edged sword. I tell interns, people that impart and asking me different questions, it's definitely a double-edged sword. But taking it a step further is that a lot of social media have been out for a certain amount of years, and as a person you should be growing, and a lot of times on social media show how you have progressed in a certain way. But a lot of times we say in this day and age now in relationships and the nonverbal, what is actually said, sometimes your story in the past says something different than what you are.
Yeah.
And if you're not going back and maybe kind of hey, let me go ahead and edit
this.
That could be saying something in a total picture. You know what I mean? That when a guy goes in and saying, okay, yeah, you used to be like this.
Yeah.
And you're not like that no more or whatever. You know what I mean? You were showing all that before, and now you're not this or whatever. Or you were doing this and saying you were interested in this, but now you're not. I can understand that there's some growth, but it's also saying what is not said and what you hadn't even put in there. Because a lot of times, people just looking at the visual, seeing other things that you might, you promoting this, but now it's saying something else in the real life when we catch up. That's saying something without saying something as well, not going back and, editing. Because if you had social media where you had a relationship and you're no longer in that relationship, what happened? They usually erase all of that, right?
Correct.
That person is erased from that. Ain't
Correct.
no more on that timeline. No more he gone.
Right.
Brother disappeared. You think he's missing?
He gone.
He gone, yeah.
Pictures, what I mean? That's all the time. But don't forget about that time you was up there dropping it like it's hot.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Got you on the live videos and you and your girl down in Miami, on Miami Beach and everything.
Right.
A whole different,
Right.
You projecting.
Especially, you may be demonstrating or expressing through your social media and you taking out all of the struggle, right? Because every journey has hell in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
But if you are fabricating that and you taking out all the hell, now to the man, it look like, oh, you just go from one to the one to the one to the next one to the next one to the next one.
Everything look happy.
Everything look happy, yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah, it's like, oh, shoot.
When were you down? When were you depressed?
Exactly. Yeah. Do you care?
Exactly.
At the fundamental at the foundation, then do you care about anything?
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
If you could just leave one relationship and go into another and it's as seamless as that and you always having a good time,
Yeah.
like then there are questions, right? Because No, like the only absolute is there are none.
Yeah.
Are none.
So you can't
Say
be
it.
absolutely happy all of the time,
Right.
right? But that's a part of the, like, people don't buy the book for the beginning or the end. They buy it for the middle.
Yeah.
So what's your middle?
Yeah. That's good. So when we start talking about the ways that I guess women can perceive, or if a woman is finding herself in a situation where she's not being approached, what are some things that maybe brothers can look at, or that she can do, maybe some signals? I don't know if this is a question that you feel like you guys can answer.
No, we need you to answer that.
I mean, I can say just be open,
Yeah,
From my point of view, it's just like be open and be approachable, laugh sometimes,
There
something
you
y'all
go.
said earlier, but I guess too, I'm asking you, Doc, from a clinician's point of view, because sometimes, I know that it ain't just easy to get over yourself, meaning,
Yeah.
you want to do differently, but you keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, not to go too deep, but like those simple things, like smiling.
Yeah.
Just smile, and say hello.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a deal breaker. I say all the time, and just do more kind things.
Yeah.
Right? So often it's like there's this narrative in women's head, not to overgeneralize, but if I do something that is cordial, he's gonna think that I like him, and I don't do that. So I'll just do something that is not kind to ensure that I don't engage him. Right? So they literally go to the other end of the spectrum, but they don't realize, like, a lot of men, and y'all back me up, but like, just because you nice to me or cordial to me, like, I understand that you're not flirting too. But don't get me wrong, sometimes you are, but I know that saying thank you because I opened the door works for me.
Right.
It's cool.
You being
I open
nice.
the door. Thank you for opening the door.
Right.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Yeah.
And you need to understand, if I walk up and be like, man, I like your hair.
Yeah.
I'm not flirting either.
Yeah.
Like, those are the things, like, I should be able to just pass a compliment. So for a woman, just do more kind things.
Yeah.
And be cordial. It's cool for you to say, man, I really enjoy talking to you. I'm not looking for anything further than that, but I enjoy talking to you.
Yeah.
Because, like we've said before, I may not be interested in you, but if I have a nice experience with you, and I know Michael's looking for somebody, he's a nice guy.
There you go.
I'm like, hey, Mike, man, that's the girl I seen at so-and-so, man. She was real cool, man.
Yeah.
Let me run over here so I can introduce you.
Yeah.
That women aren't the only ones who do that. Men think in that vein also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when you talk about the certain breeds who are not aggressors, and if they were interpreting that you might be giving away signals, most likely he's went back and told one of his boys or somebody else.
Yes.
Man, I think girl at work, man, she been doing this, and this. And that for it gives him the confirmation when the guy's like, oh, yeah, man, she might be feeling you. Did she do this? Yeah, man, she always do that. You know what I mean? That then gives him the green light. Oh, okay, now he has more confidence to approach you in a certain way and asking certain questions to see and probe if that interest is real.
Yeah.
Now, as Doc said, you just being nice. Okay, some guys will interpret the nice as flirtatious, but some of them like, okay, once again, I go back to how much you're in contact with them.
There you
You're
go.
only nice to a person every month, once a month or something like that.
Right.
Hey, that's general, it's just in passing.
Right.
Even if he is attracted to you and he only seeing you less frequently, he's not going to set himself out there until he gets to a point like he knows for sure, like, hey, I got to shoot my shot now. You know what I mean? Because, hey, I don't know what's up. This girl's so bad. I know other guys are hollering at her.
Yeah.
I need to make sure I'm in the race,
Yeah.
But if it's a constant thing, meaning you're seeing them every day, once a week, something like that end on it, and you're wondering, this is coming from the woman's perspective.
Right.
Does he feel me? But I don't want to be too suggestive to him. I don't want to seem like I'm thirsty or whatever like that. When you monitor the way you guys communicate, and if he's, just kind of picking up your cues and you're doing the little slight things, as I said, the eye contact, the smile, those types of things like that, he eventually will pick it up after he's consulted and make confirmation. Hey, I think she, you know what I'm saying? I think she might be feeling me. It should then turn to the conversation, which goes around the lines of courting, the old, you know what I mean, asking other intrusive questions, but
Right.
not too intrusive.
Right.
What do you like to do? What kind of music you like?
Yeah.
Start, because a guy who's interested, he's gonna ask those questions.
You're right.
Because he ain't interested in you and attracted to you. He don't care what kind of music you like per se.
Right,
You just
right,
bumping something.
right.
Oh yeah, that's my song,
Right.
and he keep it moving.
Yeah.
He might be asking you about some other woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if he interested in you, he wants to know all about you.
Yeah.
And let's be clear, that is an opportunity, right? Because if he's asking, what he's asking you in a simplistic form, he's saying, teach me about you. Set your boundaries so I know where it's at.
Yeah.
And if you the complex being that you claim you are, then he's not supposed to know everything about you.
Right.
Right? And so you're supposed to teach him where the line is. Because guess what? If you draw that line and you do it with kindness,
Yeah.
he'll translate that to somebody else. Y'all back me up on that, right? He will tell, hey, oh no, man, that's Sheila, man. No, you can't come at her like that.
Yeah.
She's a good one.
Yeah. Exactly.
When you come to her, you got to come correct.
Right.
I know she's smiling, doing all that, man, but that ain't what that is.
Yeah.
Right? So because we pass on information, not in a gossip way, but I'm just saying, like, you have an opportunity to teach a man about you and your boundaries. But when you cast that off and you go to the opposite end, like Orlando say, if he ain't asking you no questions, and if he's already figured you out and you ain't open your mouth, you might be a simple broad. Get your game up.
That's right. Yeah. And that breed ain't attracted to you.
It ain't attracted to you.
It go on to the next one. Go on to the next
That's
one.
good.
When we talk about these blurred
Yeah.
lines, that's another thing. Like I said, if you are thinking in and of yourself, okay, is he interested? But as a lot of women like to say that women are responders, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But in order for the man to make an action to make you have a response, he has to, in this day and age we talking about now, and the Me Too and everything like that, he has to pick up on something.
Yeah.
Something has to be the trigger for him to go in and start to ask those questions that show the interest and things like that. And once again, it could be some questions, and you can even suggest certain things if you, as Doc said, trying to teach.
Yeah.
My last relationship was like this. My ex-boyfriend used to do this, and this. I hated that. Okay, now you suggestively saying what you don't like, so now he can figure out.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I'm that same dude. Let me get out of here.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
I know your boundaries.
Right.
Yeah.
I know what you like and don't like. I'm not that dude. Let me go in.
Exactly. And I didn't mean bras in a disrespectful way. I'm just talking about the perception of that man. I want to make sure I
Right,
put
right.
that out
That's
there.
not your
Right?
language.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's that
so.
guy's
And, but
language.
and also, like Orlando just said, if you're talking about your past relationships, don't talk about it in a comparative way.
Exactly.
Just talk about it from the standpoint of you owning your space.
Absolutely. What you learn.
What you've learned. Hey, there you go. What you learned.
Now, some single people, and like you asked me a question a minute ago, it's kind of like for single guys, right? But single people think that when you're married or you're in a relationship, that understanding the unspoken and all these kind of things, maybe they get easier because you know that person a lot better. Is that true, or does it continue to be difficult to kind of read?
Nah, it's it doesn't. Let me say it in this way: if you are in a what I call a perfect relationship, and now, like I've said before, perfect in relationship is not defined by the absence of flaws. Perfect in relationship is defined by two people committed to being better than they were yesterday, every day, or today, right? So I'm constantly on that journey. I'm constantly on the journey to be a better version of me. Now, if you're on that journey, then you're never going to get to the end of understanding your partner, because they are constantly evolving, as they should be. And you are constantly evolving, as you should be. So the DNA of the tree, it is a hickory tree, but it's going to have new branches. It's going to have new leaves. You're going to have to trim some of them leaves. You're going to have to water. Like, there's constantly something new happen, because that is evolution. Right. And you really want it, like, evolution is a byproduct of like a healthy environment. Right. So, yeah, you're constantly on this thing, but that's why you have to be in love or love the thing you're studying.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're going to constantly be studying that thing with the understanding that you're never going to fully know. You may get close,
Right.
but it's a labor.
Like playing ball. If I want to be a champion, then I'm willing to put in the work.
Yeah, but like Orlando said before, like I don't care how bad you want to dunk the ball.
Yeah.
If you don't have the ability to dunk,
Right.
then you just better make sure you got the best layup in the game.
Right.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, man. Like I said, as you go on and with it, yeah, there should be some lines that are less blurred.
Yeah.
You say you good getting closer, longer through relationships, but as Doc pointed to, there are always going to be new revelations, new changes, and things like that. A lot of times, what happens also in relationships is that certain expectations lower. You know what I mean? So therefore, then those same things used to tick you off and have your pet peeves in the beginning. You no longer have to verbalize that. They know you. They can even pick up. Like, you ain't got to say nothing. You've been in a relationship and she ain't really like, I know something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And you ain't said nothing.
Right.
I know something wrong with you.
Right.
I've been with you too long.
Right.
She know your nonverbal.
She know your nonverbal. She's picking it up. She's picking up your vibe.
Yeah.
Because she'll pick up what you're not saying in any conversation.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's real.
What you're not saying is saying something.
Yes.
You know, and that's where it comes also in like I said, you know, being married, you can be being in a relationship for a long time. That person who might have came through or know your type come across and you sitting there and you ain't gotta say nothing. You ain't gonna say nothing.
Yeah.
And you can play it out thinking it was gone, but then it come back up later on. You know what I'm saying? It just what it is. You know,
nonverbal.
You already know. You already know in the situation when something happens.
Yeah.
Right.
You ain't got to say nothing.
Because she'll say, you seen that girl in that skirt.
Right.
And then wait 2 weeks later, but you know exactly
You know
what she's
exactly
talking about.
what
Right?
she
Because
talking
she know you saw it. She
Exactly.
know
Oh,
what
my
you
goodness.
like.
Yeah.
Like you said, those nonverbal
Yeah.
cues, man.
Yeah. And then another thing women have to understand though is like they get frustrated the way men communicate. You know, we usually straight to the point if we are verbally communicating, but there's sometimes where we're not saying nothing, and that also means something.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If I'm in a zone in a situation or something like that, give me my space, please. And usually once they know that, they'll know that. And a lot of times in new relationships, that can be interpreted the wrong way. If it comes out, like I said, it could be that first time you experience, he must be, something's going on with him. And it may not be, because a lot of relationships get crushed in the beginning because of those things that they may not know. Those blurred lines in that sense, what the nonverbals are. But in that moment, you got to come back and apologize. I mean, no, I didn't mean it that way. I mean, you didn't say the word.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's those things that because you hadn't got to know one another and picked up those different things. And then in the times that verbal accesses itself, when you have to be communicated to, that's where then you can unpack it and then be like, oh, okay.
Right.
So now I know.
Right. And you give yourself that room, especially in relationships. Give yourself that room to, like I said, teach.
Yeah.
You know, relationships and commitments is really this commitment to learn and teach.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, honey, I saw when you came in, you sat down, you did so-and-so. What, were you having a rough day or did something happen at the job? Yeah, I just didn't want to talk about it. You need to file that.
Yeah.
That way next time you see it, you're like, okay, he didn't want to talk about it, yada, yada. But he also needs to file that also. Yeah. Once I get past that, man, let me help her understand what's going on.
Yeah,
So she
absolutely.
don't own that.
Absolutely.
So that communication is key.
It's key, man. But like Orlando just pointed out, it's happening non-verbally more than it is verbally.
Yeah.
So you got to match the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to make sure these lines are not too blurred.
Yeah.
I know it's a problem, you know, is why relationships, a lot of them that are not working on the way they are, is because it can just be hard to read what's happening out here.
Yeah,
but,
and we always say that the work has to be put in. And I see a lot of people who are single don't want to put the work into it.
Expound on that.
They don't want to put the work in. The work is understanding the language.
Yeah.
If you want to learn a new language, you have to put some work in to learn that language.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You know, anything, you go to a new job, you got to put some work in to learn that stuff.
Yeah.
And in the relationship, people are getting lazy, don't want to put the work in so they can then understand. And that's why we had to do this show.
no doubt.
Because you have to, you have to ask yourself, if you tired of being single, are you ready to commit to the work that needs to be done? And this is one of the things when we talk about understanding blurred lines.
Yeah.
A lot of topics we talk about right here on MANBREED is part of the work.
Yeah.
After that is the implication, because there's going to be another opportunity when you are in a startup in a relationship, all the other things happen, and you're going to get to that crucial point where you have to understand, translate, and then act. And if you ain't doing that, you have lost.
Man. So Orlando said, what's your work ethic?
Amen.
What's your work ethic? Because if you ain't got one, I ain't got nothing for you.
That's the truth, man.
Might as well go home.
Go home.
Man, this is good, bro. We come to the end of another show. Yeah. I appreciate y'all brothers dropping dimes, because not only are y'all helping the sisters, I'm learning more about myself, right? And how it's serious out here.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So hopefully, y'all continue to interact with us on social media. Wow, that was some good information, fellas. We know that y'all been following us on social media, so keep interacting. Let us know what you think, what kind of topics you might have for us. But we're going to sign off for another episode, another podcast of MANBREED Live.